All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to get to know a parasite with a truly bizarre lifestyle and a pretty devastating impact, Schistosoma japonicum. We're going to uncover its secret double life, the disease it causes, and why this ancient organism is still a very modern threat. So let's kick things off with a question. What microscopic parasite is named for its split body and causes a disease named after a district in Hiroshima? And if you guess Schistosoma japonicum, you are spot on. We're about to find out exactly what that split body business is all about. So first things first, let's get up close and personal with this creature. In this section, we're going to figure out the identity of Schistosoma japonicum, and we'll start with its very, very revealing name. You know, the name Schistosoma actually tells you a really cool story. It literally means split body. Now, this isn't because the worm is split in half or anything. It's because the male worm has this unique groove that runs right along its body. And that's where he holds the female, who's longer and skinnier, for pretty much their entire lives. It's like a permanent parasitic hug. Okay, to really get this parasite, there are a couple of basic biology terms we need to get straight. First, it's an endoparasite. That just means it lives entirely inside its host. And for this guy, that means inside the blood vessels. Second, it's a metazoan. This is important. It means it's a complex multicellular animal, with tissues and organs, not a single-celled organism like, say, the parasite that causes malaria. And here you can see exactly where it fits in the big picture, in the tree of life. It's an animal, a type of flatworm, and more specifically, it's a fluke. Knowing this helps us understand its whole deal, biologically speaking.
Okay, this is where things get really wild. Its life cycle. This is not a simple journey from point A to point B. Schistosoma japonicum actually needs two completely different hosts to complete its life. Let's break down that journey.
So just take a look at this cycle. It's this incredible transformative journey. It goes from a mammal into the water, then from the water into a snail, and then from the snail right back into a mammal. The parasite literally shapeshifts at every single stage, adapting perfectly. The snail is what we call the intermediate host. That's where it multiplies. And the mammal is the definitive host, where it finally grows up and reproduces.
So how does this all happen? Well, it all kicks off when eggs from an infected mammal's feces end up in freshwater. Those eggs hatch into these little larvae called muricidia, and their one mission is to find a very specific type of snail. Once inside, a single muricidium basically clones itself over and over, creating thousands of new fork-tailed larvae called cercoharia. The snail then releases these back into the water, and they're ready to find and penetrate the skin of their next mammal host, starting the whole crazy cycle all over again.
And we're not talking about just any old garden snail here. This parasite is incredibly picky. Schistosoma japonicum can only develop inside this one type of amphibious snail from the genus Oncomelania. The geographic range of this specific snail is the only reason the parasite is found just in certain parts of Asia. It's simple. No snail, no parasite. Now, once they're mature and paired up inside a human's blood vessels, the female worm becomes an absolute egg-laying machine. And get ready for this number because it is just staggering. A single female can produce somewhere between 1,500 and 3,500 eggs every single day. This incredible output is the key to the whole disease.
And all those eggs? Well, that brings us to the real problem. The adult worms themselves are surprisingly good at hiding from our immune system, but those thousands of eggs they're pumping out every day, they are the real culprits behind the serious illness this infection causes.
Okay, if you remember one thing, let it be this. The disease isn't really caused by the worms. It's caused by our body's reaction to their eggs. See, while some eggs manage to pass out of the body to continue the life cycle, a whole bunch of them get swept away in the bloodstream and get stuck in our tissues, usually the liver. The disease, which is called schistosomiasis, is basically our own immune system launching a massive inflammatory attack against these trapped eggs. And this immune system war plays out in two very different phases. The first, or acute phase, is called Katayama fever. You can think of it as an all-out assault by your immune system. It's this really intense, body-wide allergic reaction to the very first wave of eggs. But if the infection isn't treated, the battle shifts into a long, chronic siege. Your body starts building these tiny walls of scar tissue called granulomas around every single trapped egg. And over years and years, this constant construction project can literally destroy vital organs like the liver from the inside out.
So, with this kind of invader inside the body, how do we even find it? And more importantly, how do we fight back? Let's take a look at how it's diagnosed and, of course, how to prevent it in the first place. The best way to diagnose it is actually pretty direct. You just have to find the eggs. Lab technicians will look for those characteristic eggs in stool samples under a microscope. Now, because the eggs aren't always there, sometimes other tests are needed, like blood tests or even a small tissue biopsy. But here's the good news. Once it's diagnosed, there's a really effective drug called praziquantel. It's the standard treatment all over the world. It basically paralyzes the worms, makes them let go of the blood vessel walls, and then our immune system can finally clear them out. But you know what's even better than a good treatment? Not getting infected in the first place. For anyone traveling, the advice is crystal clear. Do not swim, wade, or let your skin touch freshwater in areas where this parasite exists. Period. If you do accidentally get exposed, drying off really vigorously with a towel right away might help a little, but the most important thing is to get screened by a doctor a couple of months after you get back, even if you feel perfectly fine. All right, now let's zoom out a bit. Where in the world is this parasite actually a problem, and how does all of our global travel affect its spread? The map of Schistosoma japonicum is basically a map of where its snail host lives. So you find it in parts of China, the Philippines, and some areas of Indonesia. But Japan, even though the parasite is named after it, is this amazing success story. They ran this huge public health campaign that lasted for decades. They lined irrigation ditches with concrete to control the snails, improved sanitation, and treated tons of people. And it worked. They completely eliminated it, and the last local case was reported way back in 1977. So what about a place where the snail doesn't live, like the Netherlands? Well, there, schistosomiasis is what they call an importsiekte, an imported disease. Every single case they find is in someone who is a traveler, or an expat, or a migrant, who got exposed in a country where the parasite is endemic. The parasite can't start its life cycle there, but diagnosing and treating these imported cases is still a really important job for public health officials. And just a quick note for you, all the information we've gone over today was compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dig into the original research papers, the clinical guidelines, and all the data, you can find a complete list of sources in the Notebook LM document that's linked down in the description. Which really brings us to a final, bigger question. We have treatments that work and prevention strategies that are clear. But Schistosoma japonicum is an ancient parasite, and we're living in this hyper-connected modern world. In an age of global travel, how do we stop ancient diseases like this one from finding new homes?
And that's our look at Schistosoma japonicum. Hey, if you found this fascinating, please hit that subscribe button for more explainers just like this one. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching.